record button. So, Tantaswa, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you please tell us a little bit about your backgrounds? Where did you grow up?
Thank you, Nick. I grew up in Sada, which is a small township village outside of Queenstown. It's about 33 kilometers outside of Queenstown. So that is where really I grew up and where I started my primary school education. Yeah.
And tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
I really wanted to be a detective, Nick.
Yeah.
That is when I was very young. I wanted to be a detective, and I wanted to be a detective because of the TV that I was watching and the series that I was watching. There was one called Cagney and Lacey, and these were two amazing women who were detective, and they could solve a whole lot of cases. So I really saw myself in that space. And then as I grew up, I wanted to be a lawyer. And the reason that I wanted to be a lawyer was because I could see a whole lot of social injustice, and I was also experiencing a social injustice as a young Black South African. And therefore, I really wanted to do something with my life that would ensure that I make people's lives better. And I thought being a lawyer would be one such a profession, and I didn't end up in any of those.
But is it fair to say that social justice has always been close to your heart?
It has been. I grew up as a child who was very aware of what was happening around me, of the injustices, that were surrounding me and my life, as well as the family, my mother and my father. They used to talk to us about, what's happening. They used to share their experiences as well. At some time, my mom was a nurse in Brantford, and the grocery store that was available there did not allow Black people to go into the grocery store. You had to go into a small window, and she simply refused to do that. So she walked into the grocery store and told them that she knows exactly what she wants. And she continued to do that until she left Brantford. So we grew up around all these stories being told at home and the stuff that was happening around our lives. So I could not escape it, even if I tried, Nick. So, yeah.
And tell us, who inspired you in your early days?
My parents, Nick, inspired me quite a lot. They started from very humble backgrounds. My mom ended up, when she was retiring, as the CEO of the hospitals in the Eastern Cape. My father also, having started up as a miner, worked as a tailor at some point, achieved levels of being the inspector of music, because he went on to study music and grew in that area. As well as the teachers that I had amazing teachers in primary school. So those people really inspired me and shaped me.
And looking back over your career, Tantaswa, would you say there was a major turning point, or maybe a number of turning points?
Indeed, Nick, a number of turning points. The most telling one was when I went to the University of Cape Town to do the BCom Accountants conversion course. So I had done a B Admin honors as the first and second degree at the University of Cape Town, and worked a bit for the bank, and then decided that I needed to do something better. I needed to achieve better. Also, there was a voice in my head, my father's voice, which when I was passing standard 5, he bought me a card, a congratulatory card, and had handwritten inside that that's the sweet smell of success. So I was standing where I was standing, and I was thinking, is this the sweet smell of success that my dad was talking about? And I realized that it was not, and I needed to go out and be more. And I went to the University of Cape Town, where I enrolled for the BCom Accountants Conversion course, which really is a course where you do your 3-year BCom accounting degree in 1 year.
And Tantaswa, what would you say is driving you today?
Nick, honestly, driving me today is the need and seeking to fulfill my highest purpose, and that's healing souls. I believe that part of my highest purpose as I heal souls is to leave legacies for future generations through my writings. As you know, that I'm in the process of writing up my first book, authoring my first book. And yet in that process, there's quite a number of books that I believe are almost ready. Even the material is almost ready for me to publish. So I'm in that journey, and that is what is driving me today to say, what will me having been born, me having been here on earth, how will that benefit the future generations? I also have a passion. I also have a passion for people, for wellness. I think passion for us, if only as people we could understand that we are interconnected, we are codependent, that when I harm Unique, I harm myself. If we can understand that as people, I think we'll have a better world. And that's part of the things that are driving me today, just to get us as people to that a point of understanding.
Thank you. And Tantaswa, looking into the future, what would you say, what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Thank you, Nick. That's a beautiful question. For me, we need leaders going into the future who can inspire with both what they say and what they do. Times are changing, change is constant. But even with that change, because as people, we have our own dreams. So we need leaders who can locate their individual dreams into societal dreams, into organizational dreams. Because I believe when we do that, when we have leaders who do that, the selfishness that comes with it, I want this, this is for me, instead of seeing that this is for all of us, and we can make spaces better, not just for us as individuals, but for us as leaders. If we can have leaders like that, we need leaders who concern themselves, Nick, and who believe that it's their responsibility to seek, find, provide solutions to the questions that are challenging the nations that they live in, and not confine themselves with only the companies. Because if the ecosystem is not holding, the organizations and the companies are not going to be holding, and the people will not hold.
Now, Tantaswa, what have you learned from your own leadership journey that you consider most important for building and empowering future leaders?
Nick, we just coming out of COVID, if this is coming out, but it's not as bad as it was when we started. If there's one thing that COVID really cemented in my outlook on leadership, is that trust is key in any relationship. And as leaders, how we do that is the openness, with which we engage with people, how we take people on a journey as we take decisions as leaders. How do we make sure that people understand the reasons for those decisions? They can see what we're seeing and they trust us that we're not going to take decisions that are just selfish for us, but we will take decisions that are great for the sustainability, not just of ourselves as people, but of the companies, of the environment around us, such that there is something to give to the future. I think if we can get that as leaders, we will have gotten far. And that is one of the greatest learnings that I have. Coupled with that, the importance of ethics and integrity. These are our license to lead, Nick. We cannot hope to lead and to have people taking us seriously and people believing us if what we say is not what we do. It doesn't work like that. And the last thing probably that I've really learned that I think can be used by future leaders is to surround yourself with amazing people. Surround yourself with people who are better than you as a leader. That's not cliche, Nick. It's what moves the dial. And give them the space to be, empower them. They must challenge you. They must challenge your thinking. They must challenge your decisions such that as an organization, you come up better.
Now, Tantaswa, since you mentioned challenges, and obviously these are challenging times, what is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the career challenges that they should expect to encounter and hopefully overcome?
Again, Nick, probably just referencing COVID and the economic space that we're in, both as a country and as a world. There's a lot that people are going through. And the biggest challenge to leaders is how are leaders going to deliver to these people who are going through a lot? Which means that the wellness of the people that these leaders lead is very important. And ensuring, therefore, that the leaders are creating spaces, psychologically safe spaces and environments where people are able to open up and come as they are, and therefore have the slight chance of getting help. Because if people that work with you, that work in your teams, they close up and they've been told that, you leave your problems at the door, then they're not going to open up, Nick. You're not going to get the discretionary effort because people are trying to balance their lives in their mind all the time. So it's very critical that as leaders, we consider our wellness practices. And this is not to say, we let people not perform but it's about opening up the spaces and ensuring that they are psychologically safe. Secondly, as leaders, we have learned that the pace of change has accelerated over the years and over the decades. We need leaders, Nick, who are able to be agile. And what I normally say is we need leaders who know what to do when they don't know what to do. So you need to almost have a format of some sort, a method of some sort that will help you navigate yourself out of small and narrow spaces as a leader, as well as taking your organization forward. But that also needs agility. You need to decide and you need to go for it as a leader. You need to have confidence in you and your teams. And above all, I guess you need to trust in the providence of it all, because we don't know everything. And there is, in my view, a higher being, a God who also guides us and lands us where we need to be. But we need to show up. We need to do our part as leaders.
Now, Tantaswa, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
I would hope, Nick, that they all take my advice to heart. So there's a couple of people, Nick, that I have been fortunate enough to mentor, over my career. As you can see, I'm not a youngster, so I've been around for a while. And in respecting them, I'll not mention the names. I just will talk around, what happened. So when I was at KPMG, for instance, there's a lot of people that are mentored into partnership, and I'm very proud of that, Nick, because they've gone on to do amazing things, others within the organization, within the firm, and others outside where they became FDs and all those interesting, careers that they have taken. But it's partly because at some point when they needed it, I was there. I opened the door for them, but also I helped shape them. Because sometimes, as a young person, you do not know what is required for you to be able to progress in your career, and you need someone who's gonna be very honest with you, but honest in a way that's building you up, not in a way that's, destroying you, in a way that's building you up, and in a way that says, actually, you can do this. We know you can do this. We believe that you can do this, and pump up the energy and get the person to believe in that themselves. And I did that simply because, Nick, someone did it for me as well. For me, there's no such thing as a self-made person. We all depend on the people around us to help us, shape us, and to open up the doors for us.
Now, Tantaswa, looking back over your leadership journey and maybe your learning journey, are there any role models of leadership that you would recommend future leaders should study?
Nick, I love that question because I do get asked that question. And for me, the perfect role model for me is my mother, a leadership role model. If ever a book was to be written or should be written on leadership, I believe it would be about my mother. And why I say that, if you remember, I started up by saying she started from humble backgrounds, and she ended up being a CEO of a hospital in the Eastern Cape. And what happened, it was not just one hospital, Nick, it was one hospital after another. Whenever they identify that there was a hospital that was not working in the Eastern Cape in public sector, they would take my mom and she would be posted in that hospital and she would sort it out. And then she would be taken to another hospital, almost like an impact player, if you're thinking in terms of a sport. And the things that I've learned from my mom as a leader is, one, integrity, Nick, do what is right all the time, whether you are alone or not. Two, the professionalism of how you show up as a leader, with my mom, it started on how she dresses in the morning, Nick. Her car you'd never find her car dirty, because for her, it is the whole image that she needs or she wants to project. Yeah. Thirdly, being deliberate and on point about what you're doing, the actions that you're taking, the decisions that you're taking. She was humane. She is humane, with everything else, she would still listen to people and hear the human story, about what is happening. And I think one of the things that made her amazing as a leader, Nick, is my mom never did finance or anything like that. Right. However, the way she ran the hospitals, and as you would know, people always complain that there are no medicines in hospitals, there's no food, there's no blankets. With my mom, she never, in any financial year, she never ran out of food. She never ran out of medicine in her hospitals. She actually did more with the money that she was given, with the budget that she was allocated. She would help feed the other hospitals around her who had gone out of food. And she did amazing things like change even the furniture of the hospital, not from any other extra money, but from, what she's been given. So it was the discipline, the fiscal discipline that I think is required as well when you are a leader.
Oh, it sounds like she's got the heart of a servant.
Indeed, indeed.
Now, Tantaswa, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
And Nick, I am on LinkedIn, and it is a medium for me that I truly love in terms of sharing the ideas that I have, sharing who I am as a person, and sharing the learnings that I get from life as we go along, because I do believe that every little life encounter, if you take the moment, if you pause, you will find that there are lessons in each and everything that we encounter as people. Being at the gym, it's teaching you something, when they say engage the core,
Right.
when you think about it after the gym, you actually understand that with your life, for your life to really move in the direction that you want it to move, you have to engage the core. And it might not be the core now as, the core of your muscles, but the core must be engaged. So I really love just thinking about life and what it means.
And last but not least, Tantaswa, what is your message to the millions of learners who are completing school this year, who are looking to start their career? What is maybe one or two success factors they should consider?
Nick, a lot has happened and a lot is still going to happen. So for future leaders, future employees, future entrepreneurs, I think there's a couple of things that they need to focus on that has not been focused on previously. One, the art of storytelling. And sometimes when I say this, people raise their eyebrows a bit. And the reason, Nick, I'm saying the art of storytelling is important. People need to understand how to tell a story. If you are going to lead people and you're going to explain the vision and where you're going, it is about storytelling. You need to hit people in their gut. But if you don't know how to tell a story, then you're not going to get there. And you need to understand your audience. You need to know, who's my audience? Why am I telling them this story? What do I want them to take away from this story? And what actions do I want? And that needs a finesse in terms of the art of storytelling. And data analysis, it is a buzzword. And everything is getting into the machines, computerized, machinized. And therefore, we need to be able to, take up what the data is telling us, not just for the now. We need to be able to use the data and say, what is coming around the corner? So where presently we might not be able, the site doesn't bend and go into the corners. I think if we use the data in the proper way, in the way that it is available for its use, we can start seeing around the corners and start, expecting things before they show up. And this one I cannot overemphasize enough, Nick. It's one of those soft skills, which I believe is a hard skill. It's compassion. We need leaders who are compassionate. As I've said earlier, people are dealing with so many things. So we need leaders who are able to stand in the shoes of the people that they're leading. And that does not mean you must be flippy floppy as a leader. You must not be stern. You must not be firm. You must be all of those and compassionate. It's not either or. So we need that for people going forward.
Well, Tantaswa, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
And-
This has been amazing.
And very much looking forward to reading your book.
Thank you, Nick. I'll send it your way once it's done.
Thank you.